Okay, let's begin. Yes, thank you for reminding me to do that. Okay, so here's how we go. We got it. We get an article, and we've got it poked in front of us, and
Mm-hmm.
we've got some questions. So what we have to do now is have a look at the article, and we just
Mm-hmm.
did that a little while ago in more detail, and we have to skim this article. So what
But
we have to do
even before looking at the questions.
before looking at the questions. With
Uh,
reading, it's the reverse of listening. Listen,
mm-hmm.
with listening, we just can't know what's going on. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, but with reading, we can have a pretty good idea what it's about. So, what we do first, um, I mean, we could read the questions first, but they're not going to
Mm-hmm.
mean much if we don't really know
Yeah,
what this is all about.
sure.
So, the first thing we do is we have a look at the article in question, and we see how it's set out. We can see just by looking at it, there's a whole lot of paragraphs, and there's a table in the middle. So what we normally do is we will skim this. That means we'll have a quick look around it, and we might have some very good pointers as to what it's all about. First of
Mm-hmm.
all, there'll probably be some sort of a heading. And although it's a little bit small to see here, there is a heading,
Oh,
right?
I see.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes when we've got a lot of paragraphs here, there will be subheadings. In a lot of
Mm-hmm.
articles, there will be. So if we've got all those heading sort of things, we are really we've got a bit of a bonus. That's all we have to read, pretty much. So we've had a look at it. We see that it's about air age, and we see that in the middle it's got a table that's obviously going to tell us something about something about what's in the article.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, all we have to spend on this is probably 30 to 60 seconds, not
Uh-huh.
much more, because all we need to know is what it's about first. Right.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Trust me, I'm a doctor. But I can't heal you. Okay. And this is we have to use some detective skills, and we have to use the skills that we've had about predicting
Mm-hmm.
when we did the listening thing. Okay. So just by looking at the entire article, we can see there are 9 paragraphs in a table, and each paragraph is labeled with a letter. The paragraphs are written exactly how we should write in IELTS, with a gap, and if it's done correctly, each paragraph will be indented. So here we see the very first paragraph, and what we do here is we just have a look at the heading, right? Air age, okay. Now, all we read is the topic sentence.
Uh-huh.
And usually the topic sentence will be the first one, right? The
Mm-hmm.
first recorded case of an airline passenger turning violent, seriously violent, during a flight, a phenomenon now widely known as air rage, happened in 1947 on a flight from Havana to Miami. No more, no more. We don't need any more right now. So we know paragraph A is telling us a little bit about the history
Yeah.
of what this is all about. Okay. The title of the article, Air Rage, gives us a big clue. We start to think about what is air rage. Now, if let's say we don't know what air rage is, we might be able to relate it to traffic rage or something,
Mm-hmm.
where people go nuts in the traffic. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so we think about what we know about this, and we then we go along. We know it's about air rage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we read the first sentence of the paragraph. Usually that's the topic sentence. It's not always, but it will usually be the most important.
Mm-hmm.
Then we do the same with each paragraph. You might want to make notes in the column over here. Oh, history of air
Mm-hmm.
rage, something like that. So you know
Mm-hmm.
where to go straight back to it if you have to. Then we do the same with each paragraph. We get a really good idea overall of what this article is about. Hey, I don't have to send you this PowerPoint because we're going to have it recorded, yeah? So
Mm-hmm.
don't try to read the entire article at this time, just the first sentence in each paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you can draw write, etc., on the exam paper, what you put there won't be seen by the examiner, because they collect all this. They don't let you take it home, but they destroy it later. You know, and I also sometimes suspect that they sell it. So don't worry about whatever you put on the paper. You can draw pictures, you can make comments, you can write in Russian, you can write in Chinese if you like. You know, so long as it means something to you, that's all. That's all.
Okay.
And then of course, because this was recorded as a video, I say stop the video now and do this for each paragraph that you got. Okay, well you can do that later. Now we also see a table, and it's pretty obvious that that table would be put there for a reason. You know, it's going to have something to do with it. All we need to know at this stage is that there are some figures and some items mentioned here, and we can generally make the assumption that these items they're talking about and the percentages have probably got something to do with why there is air rage. Uh-huh. So we could assume that this is probably the causes of air rage. Now, at this stage, I would normally say, okay, stop, go over this, do the whole thing. Right. Done that. Okay, great. Now we have a good idea of what the article is about. So what's next? Now we read the questions. Not before, after. Listening, we have to read the questions well in advance. Reading, we see what the thing is about, and then we look at the questions. Now, we haven't read this article yet, right? We just got a pretty good idea what it's about. All right, and here are the questions, and you've got them, so you know what they're all about. Now, this does take a little bit of you have to really practice this, and I will send you some more questions like this so that you can follow this up. You know, and with some more examples, and try to use this sort of procedure. Okay. So from the question, the first thing to do is to see what we need to do. If we get all the answers correct, but we've not done exactly what they want, well, you know, it's wrong. And they're asking for I to XIV, right? Not 1 to, what's that, 14? No. They have to use exactly what they say. So this is, I know I harp on this a lot, but it's a very important thing, because they will give you a bad mark if you don't, even though your answer's correct, you know. So here is what we must do. That's it. We have to do it exactly like it said. Okay. And you notice that the question states to use Roman numerals. If you use any other way of correcting this cranky looking old man over there will say, "You're wrong." Right? You don't want that. You don't want that. So now we read the question and scan the articles for words or phrases that indicate something like what is mentioned in the question. It might not be exactly the same wording as in the question, and often it's not. So we're saying, okay, a decline in the tolerance of passengers is what it says in the question. Let me just get rid of that. That's in the room. So that's what our first question asks us to match. So starting at paragraph B of this article, and you can refer to that later because now you'll have a recording of this. Let's see if there's anything there that says anything like that. The words are unlikely to be the same, but they will indicate a similar idea. So in paragraph B, we can see passengers are increasingly likely to cause trouble or engage in violent acts. And I think you already saw something like that because you said, I think it's paragraph B. And I think you're right, you know. And I think that we see that indicates a decline or lowering of tolerance by passengers. Seems pretty similar to what we're looking for. So don't put it on your answer paper just yet. We might find something else later that could be more specific. But let's write on the question, against that question, a big B. Remember, The examiner never sees that. Okay. Scribble on it, do whatever you like. Now we scan the article, matching as closely as you can keywords in the article to keywords in the questions, and noting on the questions which paragraph seems to have the keyword relating to the questions, right? Okay. It does take practice to get this right. And remember, once you've got over this horrible monster of IELTS, you never have to do it again. It's not real life, right? Okay.
Never. Just 2 years and I'll have to do it again.
No, make good use of it. All right. So we've still not read the article, but we're starting to answer the questions before we've read it. Now remember, we put our answers first on the question paper, not on the part where we have to answer, right? Because we get a little time to transfer that later on. Now we move on to a different type of question that's sometimes asked in IELTS, and that's true, false, and not given. And I have to tell you that sometimes these are insanely difficult, right? Yes, and like I've often said to you before, when you're not sure, you take a guess, right? Because in this case, there's a 33 1/3% chance that your guess is right. Excuse me. So basically, you're given some statements about the article and asked to say if that statement is true, false, or if there's not enough information to say whether it's true or false. Now, that sounds pretty easy, but it's not, because they often make it quite difficult. You've got to read the question carefully and give the examiner exactly what is asked for. Must be careful to write true, false, or not given if that's what he asks. Or he might ask yes, no, or not given. Okay. He might say TFNG. Okay. You just have to follow the instructions. It's heavy stuff. It's heavy stuff. I'm not going to ever tell you that this is easy. All right. So here we see here's the questions, right? And I won't waste your time going over them, because we'll just talk about the strategy now. You can get involved in this a little later when we're not doing the lesson. So in question 9, let's have a look at this case. We have a look for what is the key word in this thing, and we have to try to decide what seems to be the most important word there. It's probably registered.
Registered.
Because it's suggesting here the man was not punished because the plane was not registered. So what we're going to have to look for in the article is something about the registration of the airplane. If it doesn't say anything about it being registered, well, then this is a not given. If it talks about it being registered, then we have to look closely at maybe some details about its registration. Okay. And if we look in paragraph A, we will see it says, it was not then clear where the plane was registered. And that sentence you'll find when you read it goes on a little bit more about talking about if there was no details in those days about where a plane was registered, it was difficult to know which law applied. So we can, I know this is getting rather involved, and I'm sorry about that, but this is IELTS for you. I picked a rather difficult one because you can say, at least the others won't be this difficult. We hope. Okay.
Well, it says here. So the text says that the plane was not registered.
That's what it. Yes, it does. It doesn't say where. If you read it from my memory, it doesn't say where. It says it was registered, but it doesn't say where.
Yeah, but it's okay. The question says the plane was not registered, and the paragraph says it was not clear. So they basically talk about it, but then since
right, Yeah. Now,
Okay. So,
I would be able to
so you
argue.
cannot say not given, right? Because they
That's what
mention it.
that's what I would suggest. However, I know that the answer that was accepted by IELTS for this was not that. So that,
So basically, I don't know. So this one that would be false, right?
yeah, yeah, yep.
Okay, I see.
But I would be inclined to believe, just reading this from past experience, reading this, I would have put not given. But
Really?
yeah, 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 it
But
was
what's the
wrong.
correct one?
If I remember correctly, it's false.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, let's go on because I'm not entirely sure of that. I have to tell you, I'm not entirely sure. A lot of this stuff, is very arguable. It's very arguable, and unfortunately, when it comes to them marking it, you can't really argue with them. You know, you can ask for a remark. Some of this stuff is so ambiguous; it's unbelievable. Okay,
Mhm.
so unfortunately, you're stuck with this. In the first case of air rage, one of the reasons the man was not punished was because the plane was not registered. So it's
Mhm.
false, right? The plane was registered, but it was not clear where it was registered.
Uh-huh.
Very, very iffy, isn't it, in my opinion? Very
Yeah.
iffy, you know. My first reaction, the first time I ever did this was, this is not given. Right? But no,
Exactly. Yes.
yeah. Okay. Now you and I think the same. You know why? We're probably more intelligent than IELTS examiners. Okay. And let's have a look at this one now. And don't forget, you can put this article in front of you and replay this and listen to what we're saying later so that you can see that it works. The statistics on air rage were collected by private monitoring groups. All right. Now, if we look
Mhm.
at that, so see if we can answer this question. All right, well, we won't do that because we don't want to pause the video. But it's the statistics on air rage were collected by private monitoring groups. And if we have a look in paragraph B, it's not given. It doesn't say who collected them.
Let me just see, please. Just a second. I'm gonna see.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. You can see it? Yeah.
Just a reading. Well, they're not talking about it at all.
So therefore, it's not given.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
This stuff is very confusing and it's insanely difficult some of the time. Now,
yeah.
this one is a trap. The second most common catalyst for incidents is problems with seating. Now,
Yeah, but from the table, I probably guess it is true, right?
right. Well, from the table, does it say that the table says the second most common or the most common?
Wait.
Because I haven't got a split screen. I can't see both, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Mm. One
The
of the
se-
major causes seems to be the passenger behavior or their personality.
Look at the
Mm.
table. Look at the table.
Yeah, well, the table suggests that it is the
It
second.
is, yeah, yeah, and it is because the table says you know the highest percentage is something else, and the next highest percentage is seating. Yeah, so it's
Uh-huh.
true. It's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Good. 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 See, alcohol was the highest, and seating was the second. And
Mm-hmm.
it says the second. Most people rush into this and they say, "Oh, the most common one was alcohol," so it's wrong. It's not. It's false, right? But it isn't. It's so it's a turn of phrase to throw you off, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting the idea on this, all right? And then of course we say, okay, Now you can continue to go on and answer all the questions. And how to recap this. How do we do this? We discussed how to skim for quick understanding and note topic sentences. We discussed how to scan for specific words that are going to be in the question or similar to what's in the question, and they will tell us where the answer is.
Mm-hmm.
We discussed how to make notes on the question paper to help us answer these questions. And we talked about how to answer the questions according to the instructions, and we learned how to do a popular task of matching headings. And we talked about true, false, and not given.
Mm-hmm.
So we've answered the questions. We're about to now we have a look at the time we've got left. We reckon we've done it, right? We have a look at the time we've got left. If we got enough time, then we can reassure ourselves by reading the entire article.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't have enough time, we just start transferring the answers to the answer sheet, right? We can be pretty confident that we're right, but sometimes if we do have the time, we can read the whole article, and that will just make us sure, But a lot of my students never get that far. They never get enough time to read the whole thing. And they come out of the exam room and say, I have no idea what that thing was about, but I answered all the questions. And I know when I told you that before, you thought, that can't possibly be so. And I know a lot of instructors who say, no, that would never happen. I say, no, we're not meant to be, my students are not meant to be speed readers. In a foreign language. Come on, give them a
That's
chance.
what I was doing. I was just reading the whole thing, and I would do the answers.
Right. Because if you try to read the whole thing and then answer it, you might not get all the way to the end. So it's best to go to do this type of strategy, because you get through the difficult bits fast. And then you can go back and read it, and you might say, oh, well, I think that question down there, it could be something else. Let me read that a little bit in greater depth.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't get the time, well, you've answered all the questions, And even if you're not 100% sure of some of them, there's still a pretty good chance that your guess is better than no answer at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So, in the next lesson, it says it will be easier. Ha ha ha. You think so, do you? Let's have a look at the next lesson, which I had in this, because we will have time to have a look at it. It's lesson number 2. It's about a completely different thing. And I will send this to you. Oh, okay. Someone wants to know me in LinkedIn. Oh, that's good. Might be good. I'll send you there's article to go with this, etc., 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 and I'll send it to you. And I can tell you now, it's pretty much about wind power. Right? So, multiple choice questions. We talk about that. Summary completion and matching statements. That just about covers all the types of questions you go. By now, we've covered nearly all the styles of questions that you are likely to get in the reading exam in IELTS if we do this. Multiple choices. Okay. We'll focus on 3 different types of common questions. These will not be as complex as the last lesson, right? Because you already know about a lot of things. You know that you don't need to read everything in full, and you know how to answer the question with the exact information you need. So this won't be so difficult. It's not, I'm not going to tell you it's still going to be easy, but it's going to be easier. A lot of people find the reading the most difficult.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, some people just go all crazy about the speaking and it's only because they get nervous and don't know what to do. But in the reading, you really can come unstuck. It's the most dangerous part, in my opinion. So let's do a little bit of predicting about this thing about wind power, and you'll see when I send it to you how it's laid out And we could have a quick look at it now, but it's not going to really help you too much. Let's just talk about the strategies. So let's do a little bit of predicting, right? Okay. We see the article heading will be wind power. Okay. Pretty hot topic at the moment because people are talking about climate change and global warming and why don't we use alternative fuels like wind power and blah, blah, blah. So it's likely that most students will know something about wind power. You know, you're probably not an expert on it, but you will know
Yeah.
something about it. So we need to get our mind working and focused so we recognize words related to the topic. So things like, you know, wind generators, these are the words that are going to come into our mind. So we have to do a little bit of brainstorming and think about what are some words or some vocabulary we might see in this article. And we think of them just at random: windmill, generator, electricity, renewable energy, fossil fuels, coal-fired power stations, wind farms, government subsidies, pollution, clean energy. These are just things that might come into your mind when you think about wind power. You might think about other things too, but these are the things that would come into my mind. You know, okay, I've got to be on the ball. I've got to be on my toes, looking out for words like these, right? So, you know, now we say, okay, my mind is focused on this subject. I'll read the article through. I'll skim it, and I can skim the article to see what it's all about. And it starts off like this: the power of wind has been used for centuries to directly drive various machines to perform such tasks as grinding wheat or pumping water. Now that will be the topic sentence. There's more on that in the same paragraph you'll find when you see it. Okay. So we see, okay, that's about the history. And the next paragraph, traditional means of electricity generation using coal or oil fuel plants have two major drawbacks. They pollute the environment and the fuels they use are inefficient and non-renewable. Okay, so paragraph number 2 is arguing against the idea of wind power. That's the little note we have to make in our mind or on our paper, right? Then the next one, in the 1970s, Britain was in the forefront of research into wind power. Now, in this case, sometimes the topic sentence is not always right. It is at the beginning. The interest in wind diminished in the 1980s due to cheap North Sea oil, a strong pro-nuclear lobby, and pricing structures that made it uneconomical to set up wind farms. I just put the third paragraph. It's the topic set. Oh yeah, okay, it is. It's the right one. And then the next one, it is in Germany and Denmark that the greatest advances in wind power have come. Okay, these are the important ones because these are the topic sentences, right? Britain is catching up, blah, 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 blah. Because many people feel wind farms spoil the view, da, 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 da. The use of wind power is far less advanced in the USA. So, from reading only the headline and the topic sentence in each paragraph, we can get the idea of what this article is going to be, where it's going, what it's all about. It's going to discuss the use of wind power to generate electricity in some countries, and we'll probably make comparisons about wind power generation in those countries. Okay, now that's just common sense. From reading those things, we see what this could be all about. Right. And now we should maybe take a look at this article just to have a quick look. Right. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. What are we going to talk about while that thing goes round and round and round and round and round? Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. But anyway, I will, while it's going around, I will tell you that I'm going to send you some stuff, and I'm very happy to have your friend as my guest. And now, I'm sorry, Elena, but I do have to tell you that all this stuff about reading, like I say, it is sometimes insanely difficult, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and it's really something that you have to concentrate on and do it. The rest of what we talk about in IELTS, as I've told you, is fairly simple. You know, once you know the strategy, it's not very difficult to work it all out. But with this, with the reading, it is rather difficult at times. You can be lucky. So here we see the article, and I'll send you this. And we can see as we go through, okay, wind power. That's the thing. Now let's skim this, right? The power of the wind has been used for centuries to directly drive various machines. Good. Traditional means of electricity using coal or oil plants have two major drawbacks. Right. In the 70s, Britain was in the forefront of research into wind power. Good. Know about that now. Germany and Denmark, great advances in wind power. Good. Britain is catching up, and the government has set a target of 10% for all electricity to come from renewable resources. Okay, we make a little note on that. Because many people feel wind farms spoil the view, okay, there's some people who want it to look pretty rather than practical. USA is the lowest user. Okay, so we can therefore get a pretty good idea from that what it's about. Now we look at the questions now. Let's have a look at some of the questions because we've skimmed and scanned it. Okay. Oh, I want this to be bigger so you can see it better. Oh, over here. Here we go. So choose the best answer to the question. People do not like coal and oil power production because now
it damages the environment.
It damages the environment, is wasteful, they cannot be replaced once consumed, or all of the above. Now, we just go back to the article, and I think from memory, it was pretty obvious. It was pretty obvious, you know, which one it was. Now, one of the things we have to be careful about when we're answering this stuff, we have to answer the questions as per the article we read. Not what we think ourselves or our opinion or what we might know. You know, I think I've mentioned the situation where the article says that Vladivostok was the capital of Russia, right? and someone said, no, that's not right. But it's the answers must be according to the article, not about what you know. So, for example, about wind power, you might say, well, I think it damages the environment. Now, if that's not what the article says, you can't say, just because that's my opinion, that's the correct one. You know, it has to be according to the article. And sometimes that's like, ooh, you know, I don't want to answer that. I don't think that's right. But according to the article. Okay. And then, of course, it goes, you know, the next questions, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Oh, and there's an advertisement. Do you need general English updates to bring up your... No. You don't need to worry about that. You're pretty safe with that. All right. Let's have a look. Let's have a look now at another set of questions. Questions 3. Okay. And see if there's any... okay. Now, summaries. These are not very difficult, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, we have to just think, okay, sometimes we have to condense what we see in there into 1 or 2 words, like it says. So we have to be a bit clever, you know. And you know, these things, then, as I say, they're not overly difficult. And someone with average intelligence and a pretty good command of English like you have won't have any trouble with those. You know, you certainly won't. You'll do very well with them. All right. Now, what else do I want to tell you today? There are 1 or 2 other things I want to tell you about.
I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Like, I understand I maybe not need more lessons, but I was thinking maybe we could figure out like how I could write essays, and I could send it to you, and you could check it and just give me feedback if there is any. Like, I mean, of course, not for free, but like maybe we can figure it out.
Yeah. Look, if you want to just send me a few essays, just go ahead. You know, do that.
No.
Do that. If you don't want to have formal lessons, it's okay. Just do that. You know.
Yeah, but we have to figure out like how I'm gonna pay for it and stuff.
Yeah. Let me think about it. It's not going to be as expensive as lessons, of course. Nowhere near, nowhere near. It'll just be like, oh, okay, send me 100 essays and I'll charge you $5 or something. No, it won't be that cheap, but you know what I mean. It's not going to be a heck of a lot of money. We might say, okay, well, $50 will get you 10 essays or something like that. So let me think about it. It'll be something that you agree with rather than me tell you what to do. Now, because we've sort of come to the end of our part of the thing, and who knows, as you say, maybe your friend will want to take lessons, and that's great. Let me just give you a bit of a summary, and I'll copy and paste these to you. What to do in the 4 sections of the test, how to best attack them. So this part here is all about the listening. And it tells you what to do with the listening. Okay, read through the tasks of each section and make sure you know what sort of answers needed. Is it a letter, an option from a box, and the reasons, right? And this is before you hear the recording. Use this time to work out the topic. Use a pencil to underline keywords. By the way, you won't be able to take a marker in or anything like that. I made inquiries about that. No, it's pencil.
But are pens allowed?
No.
Not even pens?
No.
Oh,
Apparently not. They will give you a pencil, and they will know that this pencil cannot be tampered with, I think they suspect everybody of wanting to cheat, Okay.
How? It's impossible to cheat there. It's impossible.
Oh, you're not Indian, are you? Indians find ways to cheat. They put little notes in the cuffs of their trousers, up their sleeves, up their nose, roll it up and stick it up their nose. Oh, and probably other places too. But they do. They do lots of cheating, Indians. And I think a lot of it comes from Indians cheating, that they get so strict. Okay, and during the recording, what to do during the recording? Answer as it goes. And after the recording, go and check it. Right. Okay, and what to do about this one? This is all about reading. So have a look at this carefully when I send it to you, and think about what you would do with this. And then writing. Well, writing, I'm not concerned for you at all. I think no, I think your writing is pretty good. But as you say, you might want to send a stack of emails. You might want to send me some essays. You source the essays and just send them to me. And okay, let's make a deal. Let's make a deal before we leave, and you can decide. Yes, I want to do that, and send me an invoice or whatever. What do you think of? How many are you going to send me?
Okay, I have IELTS in a Saturday. So on 28th is my writing part.
Right.
It's a Saturday.
Right.
The speaking I have the day before, but basically 2 weeks. And to
2
be
weeks.
realistic, maybe I want to also be productive. Maybe
Sure.
three essays, both parts. 3 essays a week, let's say, 6 in total, hopefully. I'm gonna,
So that's 6. What's the date today?
Today is.
So that's about 6 essays, yeah.
Yeah, I really hope I'll make that, but.
All right.
I don't know.
All right. Let's make. All right. Oh, gee, they're going to PayPal are going to savage it with fees a little bit. All right. Let's make it $30 Australian for 6 essays. If you send 7 or 8, I'll still look after them for you. Don't worry. All right.
Ready?
Okay. Yep. All right. Okay. I'll send you some stuff. I'll send you an invoice later, and it was Australian $80. What's wrong with me? $30. We said. Yep. That'll do nicely. All right. So about the writing, I'm not. Even though you feel a little bit not confident about that, I think you'll do very well in the writing. I really do. But okay, send me some essays. We'll make sure that it works really well. Now, in the
Okay.
speaking, um, and I'll send you all this stuff, what to do in the speaking, this I have no concerns about. I think you're
Mm-hmm.
going to do very well in the speaking. You know exactly what to do
Mm-hmm.
because the strategies that I showed you, you use them very, very well. And
Mm-hmm.
you cover everything that you need. Now, even if you make a few mistakes in there, that you're not going to lose many marks in the speaking because you're very good at it. You're very good.
Mm-hmm.
It's excellent. It's excellent. You're one of my star students, actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you are. You wouldn't believe it. I had a Chinese language school contacted me a couple of days ago, wanted me to teach online to their students, blah, blah, blah. And, oh, ah, you would not believe how difficult they were to deal with. In the end, I had to be very rude to them, you know. I had to
Oh,
say,
why?
oh, well, first of all, they said, okay, how much we want? We want 50 lessons, right?
Uh-huh.
50 lessons, and we pay 20 Australian dollars per lesson for 50 lessons. Is that okay? And I said, uh, all right, 45-minute lessons. Oh, no, 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 no. We want a 1 hour lessons, blah, 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 blah. I said, no, 45-minute lessons, and you pay half in advance and the other
Yeah.
half halfway through. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, yes, okay, okay, okay. So I sent them the bill for the first half, and they write back and saying, oh, our director says blah, blah, blah. I had 2 words for them, two
Mm-hmm.
words that I should use more frequently. Piss off.
Oh,
Made me feel good. And they've been calling ever since, you know. Oh, okay, okay. No, 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 no.
it's better not to deal with them, to be honest. They're
Well,
very sly.
look, I tell you what, my experiences with Chinese has been very bad in the past.
I think it's probably the entire world has really bad experience with Chinese.
Yes.
We work with
Anyway,
them.
so
Company
that's
works
why
with
that's
them.
why I say you're a star student because you're easy to deal with. You get
Not a
on with
Chinese.
you get on with the stuff. All right, I'm going to send you some stuff. I'll send you an invoice for essays, and you just start sending them to me. When it gets when
Okay.
it gets when it gets to 6, you tell me because I'll probably forget. No.
Okay. And if I maybe like if I'm gonna be overproductive, please send me more invoices. But we'll see
We'll,
how it's.
we'll 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 just see how we go. I mean, if you feel after we've done all this that you are not confident and you would like to have more lessons, you just let me know. About your friend, just tell her, yeah, this is how you get hold of this silly old man and blah blah blah. And you know, she might want to talk to me and say, how do we do this and whatever, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, I am going to go now and say das Fradanya, and thank you very much. And I've got quite a few things that I will send you by email. It might be 2 or 3 emails before you get all this. You know.
Okay. Thank
All
you so much.
right, wonderful, wonderful job.
Oh, thanks.
You are going to do well. The next thing I want to hear, apart from those essays, is I sat for the test and I think it was pretty easy.
Oh my
And then the
God.
next one, guess what? I scored better than I thought I would.
I'll let you know. You're gonna
Okay.
be one of the first people who's gonna know that.
Oh, yes, please. And, oh, I tell you what, I might ask you for a favor. A
Ah,
favor.
sure.
A favor. Is it possible you could write me a testimonial?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You
Just
know,
tell me when
you
you're
could
there.
actually, if you wrote it in Russian, it would be even better.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Because my agent in Russia, you know, I've got an agent in Russia who gets me private, and she says everybody wants to know in Russian what you're like, and I said, well, tell them. And she's, they don't believe me.
I even talked to my Russian friend. She actually teaches English in
Oh,
Russia, and
okay.
she sometimes teaches IELTS too. So I was like, yeah, you definitely should take a course with Ray and just learn how he does it because it's brilliant. So she may
Well,
also
well,
want.
it's funny, you know. There's a number of teachers when I was in Vietnam. They came to my classes to see what I did, and they said, "Wow, we're going to do the same because that works." You know, I said, yeah,
Mhm.
It does.
Yeah,
It works. It works. Now
yeah,
I've
yeah.
made
That's great for my friend.
Now I've made a recording of this, and I don't know if if it might be too big to send by email. If it is, what I'll do is
Mhm.
I'll put it on YouTube and send you a private link to it. You know?
Okay.
Yeah,
Or yeah, okay, sure. But you probably should stop recording so it
yeah,
doesn't get any bigger.
exactly. You're quite right. We should. Where does it say stop recording there?